Hello everybody, it's Non-Scene News here, and today we've got a lot of breaking updates today. So, the first news is coming from the Iranian missile strikes on Israel. So first, let's just head to Iran, the territory of Iran, where the Iranian state broadcaster IRIB has just released footage of the beginning of the missile attack on Israel. So the Iranian sources have just released footage of the beginning of the Iranian missile strikes onto Israel, and we can just see dozens of Iranian missiles making their way to Israel. So we can see here in the bottom left corner, we can see just the amount of Iranian missiles that hit Israel. So we can clearly just see dozens Iranian missiles hit Israel. So the Jerusalem Post states that over 400 rockets were fired into Israel. So these missiles hit Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and other parts of Israel, including more south of Israel in the desert. So the Jerusalem Post states 400 rockets were fired in Israel, while the American sources are stating that 200 were fired into Israel. So we can actually zoom in here on the Lebanese-Israeli border, where we can see Israeli troops on the Lebanese border watching the Iranian missiles rain down on their cities behind them. So, and we can just see in this video alone dozens of Iranian missiles hitting Israeli cities and Israeli military bases. So very big news. And now let's zoom in to one of the biggest news coming from the missile strikes in Israel. So the Iranian agency Tasnim reports and claims that Israel's Nevatim base here, this Israeli air base, has been completely destroyed as a result of Iranian missile strikes. So Iran is stating that Israel has just lost 20 fifth generation F-35 fighter jets and a large number of Israeli tanks in the Gaza Strip. So just from this Iranian attack here, Iran is stating that Israel lost 20 F-35 fighter jets from this attack alone. The Iranian state media says that over 80% of Iran's missiles fired at Israel hit their targets, while the America and Israel states that they intercepted most of them and the attack failed. But the chief of the armed forces of Iran, General Mohammed, he stated that we have gone through a difficult period of restraint since the assassination of Ismail in Tehran, which was the political head of Hamas. But the Iranian general said that the situation in Gaza and Lebanon simply cannot be tolerated. So they decided to strike Israel. The president of Iran also described the strike on Israel as a legitimate response to aggressive actions against Iranian interests and stated that the country is not seeking war. The IDF, so the Israeli Defense Forces, have just stated that this attack was serious and will have consequences. So now let's go into Israeli statements. So the Israeli defense minister stated that the entire Middle East will see our response tonight. So we can expect Israeli response to the Iranian strikes tonight or today. So very big news. We've also gotten videos that emerged that the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, actually running to his bunker because of the Iranian missile strikes that were hitting Jerusalem. So we can see here in the bottom left corner him running to his bunker. And once he was safe, Netanyahu stated that Iran made a big mistake and will pay for it. So we'll see in the next video Israel's response to the Iranian missile strikes on Israel. But if you want to keep tuned, please subscribe and like and keep up to date on these news. But let's continue really quickly. France demands that Israel ends its military operation as soon as possible. Macron has instructed the French foreign minister to actually go to the Middle East and try and de-escalate the situation in Lebanon and the Gaza Strip, according to the Presidential Office of France. We've also got news after the Iranian missile strike hit Israel. We've got a lot of news and celebrations around countries, including Iraq first, so in the Iraqi capital city of Baghdad. So we can see there's ongoing celebrations in Baghdad of the Iranian missile strike on Israel. There's some in the Gaza Strip, so you can see here in the Gaza Strip, you can see people clapping and waving their hands, and there was some in Iran, and there was a lot over the entire world, including Bosnia-Herzegovina and other countries like Turkey and other Muslim countries. So very interesting. We've also got news that the UN Security Council will hold an emergency meeting on the Middle East on Wednesday, the council chair announced. So today, the UN will be holding a meeting to try and settle this. We've got news coming from the US officials, coming from Jake here. So he stated that Iran fired almost 200 ballistic missiles at the targets in Israel, and the US Navy ships actually participated in repelling the attack and its allies. So according to him, the American Navy actually helped Israel in conducting interceptions over Israel, so very interesting news. We've also got news that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has also asked Moscow to hold a telephone conversation between the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. And probably again, a big news coming from Israel, so it gets worse. There was also a major shooting in Tel Aviv here. So there was a shooting that ended up killing 6 individuals. So I don't think I'm actually allowed to actually show you any of this footage, but there was at least 2 to 3 shooters that went around in a mass shooting. So these people killed 6 innocent Israelis in the city. So very sad news. We've also got news coming from the border of Israel that the Israeli army continues to show us artillery strikes into Lebanon. So if you can see here in the bottom left corner, these are Israeli strikes, Israeli artillery strikes into Lebanon. We've also gotten videos and footages released by the Israeli IDF forces. We can actually see the results of an Israeli raid into Lebanon. So we can see here in the bottom left corner, on the border between Israel and Lebanon, a Hezbollah tunnel was discovered in an Israeli raid into Lebanon, and actually discovered a tunnel holding weapons and evidence of recent activity, plus the evidence of Russian-supplied weapons. So we can see here in the bottom left corner, the Israeli forces raided this Hezbollah tunnel in the territory of Lebanon, and we can see Russian weapons. Now, the question is that did Russia actually give them to it to fight Israel? I don't know, but who knows? But the Israeli forces ended up actually seizing these weapons, seizing this equipment. We've also got news that Israel's Channel 14 TV channel publishes videos of the order from the commander of the 7th Brigade. So if you can see here in the bottom left corner, we can see these Israeli soldiers entering Lebanon and conducting military operations in Lebanon. So Israeli forces, we talked about this yesterday, have entered Lebanon, and they are conducting limited raids into Hezbollah and into Lebanon territory. So very concerning news. Now let's head to the president of Turkey, where Erdogan, the president of Turkey, stated that Islamic countries must respond to the oppression in Palestine and Lebanon. And he said that the problems caused by Israel's cruelty eventually will knock on the doors of everyone. And he said that Palestine is an exam paper in the front of every believer. So, very interesting news. We've also got news that the Russian Prime Minister Mikhail arrived in Tehran, and we've yet to get the information behind this meeting. So we can see here in bottom left corner, we can see the Russian Prime Minister visit Tehran, where he met the Iranian president, and we're still yet to know what they actually talked about. But all I know is that they both have agreed to increase cooperation and development between the two countries. So very interesting. And the next news is coming from Moscow, more specifically coming from Vladimir Putin. So Putin congratulates China and Xi Jinping on the 75th anniversary of the People's Republic of China's founding. So the Russia's President Vladimir Putin sent congratulations to his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping on the 75th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China, highlighting that Russia values friendly relations with China. He said that the volume of mutual trade is growing despite the difficult international sanctions against Russia, Putin added. We've also got news that Russian and Chinese warships begin joint patrols in the Asian Pacific region, and more specifically in this Russian sea here of Okhotsk. I think that's how you pronounce the Russian Sea. But the Russian and Chinese navies are now conducting training and combat exercises, improving anti-submarine defenses, and practicing sea routes. And we've got the footage here in your bottom left corner of these ships conducting these exercises. We talked about this yesterday, but we'll just quickly talk about it today, just in case if people missed yesterday's video. So we had news yesterday that the US Aerospace Defense Command released footage of a Russian Su-35 fighter jet intercepting an American F-16. So we can see here in the bottom left corner, the F-16 actually intercepting, it seems to be a Russian Tu-95 bomber, and we can see this Russian Su-35 jet completely swerve in front of it. The American Air Force did call this Russian maneuver on this Su-35 fighter jet as very unprofessional. So very interesting news. We talked about this yesterday, and quickly we'll just fit it in today, that the Russians are now conducting research into the Leopard tank. So we can see here in your bottom left corner, we can see the Russian officials, apparently engineers, now researching the Leopard 2A6 German Leopard tank. So we can see here in your bottom left corner, it's being transported to like a factory or some sort to undergo military research onto the tank. So very interesting news, and I'll keep you updated if anything happens. We've also got news that if Finland and Estonia impose a complete blockade of the Gulf of Finland on Russian shipping, Russia will consider such actions a violation of international maritime law, according to the Russian Foreign Ministry. So earlier media reported that Finland and Estonia are developing plans to close the Gulf of Finland to Russian ships in the event of a threat. So this is the Gulf of Finland, and we've got news that Finland and Estonia are threatening to cut this off if like threats occur from Russia. So very interesting news. Now let's head to Ukraine, where we've got news that the Ukrainian Defense Minister Ruslan Umerov said that he has submitted his papers of resigning. So we've got news that the Ukrainian Defense Minister Ruslan Umerov said that he has submitted papers to the cabinet ministers for dismissal. We're yet to actually get a confirmation from Zelensky that this is actually happening, but we'll probably get this pretty soon, and by the time this video comes out, we'll probably get more information on the topic, or even if it's true or not. We've also got news coming from Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. Zelensky announces that Ukraine's first domestically produced ballistic missile has successfully passed its flight tests. So apparently Zelensky has successfully conducted its first Ukrainian missile test. So I'll keep you updated on that. We've also got news coming from the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz. He stated that he plans to hold a phone conversation with the Russian leader Vladimir Putin in the coming weeks, according to Die Zeit source. Their last conversation between Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, and President Vladimir Putin, President of Russia, took place 2.5 years ago. We've also gotten pretty big news coming from Belgium and NATO that Jens Stoltenberg has officially handed over the power of NATO Secretary General to Mark Rutte. So Jens Stoltenberg is no longer the head of NATO. He's been replaced by Mark Rutte. So Mark Rutte is now the new head of NATO and the new General Secretary of NATO. So the new NATO Secretary General has officially become the former Dutch Prime Minister, replacing Jens Stoltenberg. During his speech at NATO headquarters, Rutte named Ukraine as his high priority in his role as Secretary General of the Alliance. So regarding that, Mark Rutte, so the new General Secretary General of NATO, is saying that on the top of his priority list is Ukraine. So the NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte, declares that Ukraine is a top priority. So new NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte, stated that supporting Ukraine is his main focus. He said that we must ensure that Ukraine remains a sovereign, independent, democratic nation. Rutte said, emphasizing that Ukraine is one of the top priorities of the NATO alliance. So, very interesting news. We've also got news coming from Mali, where we've got footages and videos coming from near the border of Mali and Algeria. So, a massive 50-plus vehicle column of Wagner is heading to the north of Mali to fight Mali separatists. So we can see here in your bottom left corner, we can see the scenes from northern Mali of a massive Wagner convoy, which now consists, of 80-plus vehicles heading its way to the north of Mali to combat Mali separatists in this exact location. So I'll keep you updated on that, but it seems that Wagner is going to be conducting some huge operations in Central Africa. Now let's head to China. So we stated this a bit earlier, but it is the 75th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China, and thousands of balloons were actually flew into the air to celebrate this over Tiananmen Square. So we can see here in your bottom left corner, we can see thousands or maybe hundreds of balloons being released in the air as part of the 75th anniversary of the People's Republic of China. So very big news. We've also got news that the Brazilian president is now facing technical problems when talking about his flight. So we can see here in your bottom left corner, we can see the Brazilian president's flight path. So if we can see here in your bottom left corner, we can see the Brazilian president's plane doing circles around the airfield. So there's been reported that there's been a huge technical problem on the Brazilian president's plane when flying over Mexico. So the pilot of the Brazilian's presidential plane requested firefighters before landing in Mexico. The control tower at the airport responded immediately, indicating that rescue teams would be ready for the landing. So if you can see here in your bottom left corner, the Brazilian plane is now conducting an emergency landing, which now firefighters are apparently on the scene. So I'll keep you updated if anything happens there. We've got news that the president of El Salvador has visited the president of Argentina. So we can see here in the bottom left corner, we can see the two individuals meet, the two presidents meet. Apparently, according to the president of El Salvador, he said that it is going to be an excellent meeting because we are great friends and I'm sure we will achieve very good things for both of our countries. So the meetings between the two are now happening now. We've also got news coming from the Argentinian Foreign Ministry that it has issued a press release condemning the Iranian attacks on Israel. So we've got news that Argentina now condemns the actions of Iran regarding to the attacks on Israel. We've also got news that another nation has condemned the actions of Iran at this very moment. Viktor Orban, so he is the Prime Minister of Hungary. He said that we condemn the attacks carried out against Israel. We pray for the safety of Israeli people in these dark hours. And one of the biggest news today is coming from the vice presidential debate, coming from Tim Walz, the Democrat vice president candidate, and the Republican vice president candidate. So Tim Walz, the Democrat one, and J.D. Vance, the Republican one, conducted a vice presidential debate, which has just ended, where we'll actually go over it next video. And one of the biggest news today is coming from Mexico. We've got news that Claudia, so the new president of Mexico, has just taken office on Tuesday, and this is Mexico's first female president. So the 62-year-old president of Mexico, new president of Mexico, was a former Mexico City mayor and a lifetime leftist, apparently. So, very interesting news. And that's all the news I actually have for you today. I am Non-Scene News. I'll try and provide you news that medias around the world do not show you. I do these videos hopefully daily, so consider subscribing and liking. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye.